So we're gonna talk about how institutions trick retail. This kind of ties into how to you guys have to stop thinking conventionally because these institutions do play tricks against retail. There are a lot of fake outs. The institutions win a good portion amount of the time, so it's important to know how they can trick us as retail traders to do something, and immediately it goes against us, right? They trick us because they want our liquidity. So let me put it this way. I know a bunch of you guys are beginner traders who are taking this course, but for the people that are experienced, how many times have you guys been in a trade, sold, and then the stock went up into your favor after you sold for a loss? How many times have you gotten in something and the stock didn't do what you wanted? So you got out of the position and immediately the stock went into your favor, right? It's very annoying. But the way these institutions trade is that they trick retail so retail can provide their liquidity. They want to get retail to sell if institutions are looking to buy, or they want retail to buy if institutions are looking to sell. So there's the ways that they manipulate the market and they make stocks look favorable so these retail traders can be the liquidity that they need, right? So only amateur retail traders are buying in areas where they should be selling, right? This is tying into stop thinking conventionally. You shouldn't be buying where you think you should be buying. You should be buying in areas where you should be selling, where you shouldn't think you're buying, right? And bullet number 2, only amateur retail traders are selling in areas where they should be buying, right? If you think you should be selling in an area where institutions are buying, right? So that's the problem with retail traders. And that's why they lose 90% of the time. They're selling in areas where they shouldn't be. They're selling in areas where there's demand. They're selling in areas where institutions are buying. You have to sell in areas where institutions are selling. Trade with the institutions. Buy where institutions are buying. Sell where institutions are selling, right? We have to think and learn to act like institutions, not retail traders. We are retail traders still, but we can't act like them, right? We have to trade with them, not against them. And we have to understand the supply and demand areas, trade with the institutions, and we can profit just like them. So here's how institutions trick retail with supply, right? So only amateur retail traders are buying in areas where they should be selling. And this is a supply zone. So we have a supply zone, right? The price rallies up, the price of the stock moves up. Retail traders are buying, maybe a breakout, right? They're buying in areas where they shouldn't be buying. They're buying in areas where it's in a supply zone, and in a supply zone, you should be selling, right? They're buying only after the price moves up and rallies. They're missing out on this bottom portion of the move. It's important to understand that they're buying in an area where supply exceeds demand in the past, and this is an area where it's possible for price of the stock to come down because of the unfilled orders that were here, right? Because we had a supply imbalance at this origin location, it's quite possible once price enters the supply zone, we could head back down, right? So it's important with this strategy. And if you know supply and demand zones, we do not buy in supply. We only sell. So if you know this and you're like, oh, I want to buy this stock right now, let me look if it's in supply. You see it's in supply, you shouldn't buy it, right? You should definitely not buy it, and you should possibly even sell it. But if you're not comfortable selling in supply yet, you don't have to. But just know never to buy in supply. Only sell if you see a proper setup. So now we have demand, how these institutions trick retail with demand, right? So only amateur retail traders are selling in areas where they should be buying, and you should be buying in a demand zone, right? So what the institutions do is they make price come down, right? They attract sellers. This comes back into the past couple videos. They make the price come down, right? When price is coming down, retail is selling. So we're selling down here, right? But they have all these unfilled orders here at this demand zone because this qualified as an imbalance, right? This is a demand imbalance. This is an area where demand exceeds supply. So why would we sell down here if we know that price rallied up in the past from this demand zone, right? Why would we sell here? So we're selling after price moves down. We're missing out on this top move right here. So we don't want to sell into a demand zone. We only look to buy in a demand zone because that's when we'll get the high probability trade that the stock could possibly bounce after it reaches this imbalance period again, right? So only buy in demand. Do not sell in demand, right? Institutions will make it look good. They'll make you guys, oh, I want to sell it. I want to sell this short, right? But that's not what you have to do. You can't sell in demand if you know there's an imbalance. So here's a good illustration of a 4-hour supply zone, right? So the chart on the left is where this box, where the supply zone originated. we have a supply zone here, and then to the right is an intraday chart, right? So when I'm plotting these demand and supply zones, I'm always working to a high time frame and working down. And then when I place my trades intraday, I'm going to a smaller time frame and seeing if the supply or demand zone is valid, and I'm waiting for a rejection before an entry. That is important. You don't want to hop in something because you're in supply, right? You only want to hop in something if you know that supply zone is going to be a valid zone and you see a rejection, as we see here on the intraday chart to the right, right? So these two supply zones right here are the same zones. One's an intraday chart, one's a 4-hour chart. They're the same price levels, right? So we come into the supply zone and price immediately declines once we tag supply. If you look at it, this is a stock, this is Tesla's, right? So it's uptrending, it looks good and looks good. Retail's buying, retail's buying, retail's buying, right? Retail buys and supply. These leftover unfilled orders that were right here where they originated get filled by retail buy orders, right? The demand couldn't exceed supply and price came down. So the strategy is simple. You sell short or you buy puts in supply. If you trade options, you're buying puts, you're longing puts. And if you trade equity, you're selling short, only in supply. We know this is a supply level because it formed in the past, and historically we have an imbalance where supply exceeds demand. Because we have this price coming down, we know supply exceeded demand at this level right here, right? Only after the fact we get a price drop. So once price rallies back into that level, retail is buying after that rally in an area where I know from the chart that institutions are selling. Why would I buy somewhere? Why would I long a stock if I know institutions are selling, right? I just wouldn't want to do it. I want to follow the institutions. So now we have demand and we have to buy in demand. We're buying in demand. It's simple. You buy or you long calls in demand. So we know this demand level formed in the past historically because of an imbalance of demand and supply. So here we have a flat consolidation period followed by a rally up, right? So this is qualified as a demand zone. Now this is a weekly demand, but the chart you're looking at is a daily chart. So if you were to look at a weekly chart, it would look a little different, but from a daily chart visually, you still can see it. So we have demand here, and look what happens when price re-enters this demand. You could get in anywhere at this box and put your stop loss right below the demand zone, and look what happens. The stock rallies back up because we fall into an area where institutions are buying. So same thing, just on the demand side. Why would we sell, right? We see the price coming down right here. We're in a downtrend, we're coming down. Why would we sell something if we know we're in an area where institutions are buying? It just doesn't make sense. This is why 90% of retail traders fail, because they're providing liquidity for the institutions. When they're selling, when retail's selling, institutions are buying. It's very simple, guys. So that's how we get tricked out by institutions. And if we follow institutions and buy when they're buying and sell when they're buying, we can start making profit. That's the basis of the strategy. We don't want to sell something when they're buying, and we don't want to buy anything while they're selling, right?